important. So let's move to another example. Let me just make sure that you guys are seeing this properly. Yeah. So in this position, I was playing black. I just played rook c2 in an opposite color bishop scenario where I have more space, but a weak pawn on d3. And my opponent played rook c1. So if I could get some suggestions of ideas, not necessarily moves, but ideas, like things that we should be looking for in this position, that would be great. Anyone can volunteer. I want to hear everyone's opinions. So, Chesky is here, or Chesky is here. Welcome, Chesky. How's everything going for you? I saw you did well in a tournament recently, before all tournaments were canceled. Congratulations. All right, Chinifo says no captures, no threats. Just ideas, I guess. So another important part of calculation is properly evaluating the position. It's important to evaluate things first. So if you look at this position, you immediately start seeing moves. That doesn't make sense. You don't know what to calculate if you don't know what's going on in the position. So maybe I could do an example of an evaluation. There are several factors that go in. Yeah, one is a free bishop. So Chesky, we're doing kind of a beginner calculation, and then I'm stepping it up. We're going to do the harder examples in a little bit. But first of all, in this position, it's opposite color bishops. So we cannot really settle for something like trading rooks and then improving our king. Probably it will end as a draw. Another issue is that this pawn on d3 is weak, so we could potentially lose the pawn. But otherwise, black just has a space advantage. So the next thing is to look for the forcing moves, right? So they probably want to, I guess, take this rook and then play a move like d4 to try to snag the pawn, although that also looks ill-fated. So we could maybe let them do that. The other thing is that this bishop is hanging. And the idea for white, it seems to be that after rook takes b2, they will play rook c8, skewering the king and the rook. So many people would stop calculating here. They'd say, I don't want to lose a rook. I'm not going to play rook takes b2. Then they would move on. That's sloppy calculation. And that's a good example of what I'm focusing in on today with this beginner calculation lesson. We should not think in that way where we stop calculating before the forcing moves are done. So let's say rook takes b2 and rook c8. Obviously, when you're calculating, you can't move the pieces. That's not how you get better at calculation. After rook c8 check, there is a forcing move to play. If anyone wants to volunteer that move. What's black's most forcing move after rook c8? I guess it doesn't matter that much, actually, so maybe I'll just give it away. After rook takes b2, no, after rook c8, it's check, Chesky. After rook takes b2, rook c8, it's check, so you can't play rook b1. So it should be either king e7 or king d7. And since everyone here it seems is pretty strong, yeah, there's rook b1. That's the end of the line. So here, if they take the rook, it's lights out. Toasted. Exactly. So in the game, so my opponent actually played rook c1. This is not just a sideline. He played rook c1, and my opponent was not a bad player. He's about 1900. And after rook takes b2, he had to play h3, miserable move. And then I rolled him after that. Yeah, king d7, forcing move. Probably this goes against how most people think of forcing moves, but it is. It's attacking the rook in two different ways. And we're threatening a back rank me. So we cannot categorically reject a move like rook takes b2 because it allows a check. That's not how good calculation looks.